All right. Before I answer that, I'm just let you know, like last night I spent like hours like writing up my notes like a little nerd and I was like answering all these questions and I shut my computer down. This morning I opened up another note, started making one, and I was like, I don't need that. And I went to delete it and it somehow flipped the
Oh,
notes and I deleted all of those
oh
notes.
my
And I
goodness.
was like, okay, well, I don't know what happened there. But I remember it being a really good answer. But I can't remember what that is.
Hello and welcome back. My name is Shannon Buehre and I am a current second-year medical student at ATSU-KCOM. Today I'll be discussing the role of organized medicine through the lens of the Missouri Association of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons, better known as MAOPS. I'm honored to be joined by the president of MAOPS, Dr. Katie Davenport-Kabonic, who will be sharing insights on the organization. This is in no way affiliated with ATSU. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey in osteopathic medicine and how you became involved in MAOPS?
Yeah. So my first introduction to osteopathic medicine was when I was a Division I college basketball player in Colorado, and I had a bunch of injuries and just some chronic pains and such that just weren't getting better, and been treated with all sorts of meds and everything. And finally, a DO treated me, and I fell in love like immediately. It made sense. It totally jived, and just started looking into what this osteopathic medicine was about. Looked for other DOs in the area and connected with one who had connection to Kirksville. And so I applied after some time where he told me to like go and try other things and make sure this is what you want to do. And I did that. And then I still wanted to do it. And so I applied to osteopathic medical schools and got into his alma mater with ATSU, KCOM. And so I came in at like an older student and didn't quite know what I like how to study or do any of that other than just knowing that's where exactly I wanted to be. And then just became more involved in some of the organizations on campus. And it actually wasn't until probably end of third year, fourth year, I started getting involved with MAPS a little bit. I applied for the Wetzel Scholar Program and, wrote a little essay and was awarded that scholarship. And that's when I attended my first MOEX, the first annual conference. And that was just one of the requirements of the Wetzel scholarship. And it was incredible. I loved people. I loved the just the relationships I saw that people were having, and I just liked that. I was connecting with people outside of school, and then as I went into residency, I just kept going back to the conference and kind of took care of my own business, kind of kept my head down doing residency stuff, became a parent, and just kept going back to the conferences. And after I'd say about 2017. That's when they saw I kept showing up and that I was interested. And nice, I guess. I don't know. And then they asked me part of some of their committees and got involved with actually helping plan the annual conference. And that's kind of how I started, and just kept coming back and showing up and making more friendships and getting part of more committees and just seeing how the organization was structured, and just kept going up and up.
That's awesome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about ATSU? When did you graduate from ATSU? And then what do you practice now?
Yeah, let's see. So I graduated in 2012, and so I had like what's about oh my gosh, was it 4 years between undergraduate and med school? Either way, anyways, 2012 was my ATSU graduating class, and then I went into a family medicine residency at Cox Health Family Medicine residency in Springfield, Missouri. And then I fell in love with OB. Actually, that kind of do I do OB or versus FMOB juncture? And thankfully, that program had a pretty good OB experience at the time, and found I loved doing surgeries as well, which is odd for family medicine, right? You think you're going to be
Yes.
in outpatient, but I loved delivering OB care. and so I did a fellowship there as well. And now, found, I guess, through all that, actually, I've always known this. I loved teaching. I loved working with learners and just that whole process of also kind of professional and personal development. So after I completed the fellowship, I stayed on at the residency as faculty. And currently, I am practicing family medicine-ish in a way, because I also was board certified in lifestyle medicine this past year. So kind of moving my career in that direction right now.
Oh, that's amazing. So you're practicing down in Springfield now?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to pursue a leadership role with MAOPS?
I think, I guess with my athletic background, I've always just wanted to be part of something. So like part of a team. And then there's also that kind of advancement towards something together. And I found that there were people in MAOPS I truly admired. I wanted to kind of be like them. Again, they were very genuine and very effective leaders. And so I had some good role modeling in that. And then I think between those two, I was like, well, I want to, do what I can for my teammates, my colleagues. And again, with an education background, just always thinking ahead, like what is the future of medicine look? What can it look like? What should it look like? And so it was very clear that to make some effective change, or at least just learn as much as possible, the leadership track was kind of I don't say no brainer, but it seemed to like feed that internal need that I had to commit to something bigger than myself, to do it with colleagues, to do it for the future. And so yeah, I guess there was some intrinsic kind of pull and then some external support. And truly, there were some leaders who I think just saw me and asked, like, do you want to be a part of this? And I think even though that's really, really subtle, it means a lot when someone recognizes maybe things that you think you have within yourself, but you're not quite sure. And then someone, that like confirms it. You're like, okay, I can, it's cool. I get to work alongside you and you maybe see some of yourself in me. So that was kind of a rambly answer, but I think a lot of things.
Yeah.
Found my right crew and the team and felt like, again, I could help make some changes. And if none, then just support those who are around me.
That's awesome. Yeah, you have a big role for MAOPS. What, for listeners unfamiliar with MAOPS, what would you say its core mission and purpose is?
Yeah, so we've actually reworded this over the last, however many years I've been involved. So currently, and kind of drill this down, is the mission of MAOPS is to advance the distinct philosophy and practice of osteopathic medicine. And then our purpose is, to be the organization that osteopathic physicians and medical students think of first for advocacy and professional resources. And I can say that right now kind of sums it up. I've seen is, we have the osteopathic presence in the states and the national level for all osteopathic physicians and all, medical students or osteopathic medical students. And we, put our efforts into those professional development, leadership development, connecting people to resources, and then advocating.
Yeah, that perfectly leads me into my next question of how does MAOPS advocate for osteopathic physicians at the state and national levels?
So at the state level, I'll just first say that our central office does an incredible job, like Brian Bowles, for staying connected with other organizations. We have a lobbyist. He knows people in the city and who to talk to. So I'd say just that team that he leads is part of our state presence there. We have a great lobbyist when we can't be up there on the Hill, but we do have times where we get students and residents and physicians up to Jefferson City to meet the representatives in a one-on-one or that type of personal way. And we also go with a big group. We have the advocacy day, and we've partnered with MSMA for a couple years now to just really like flood the area with white coats and get up there and, show that we care and we are a big group who cares together. And then we also go to the AOA every July. So we have our delegates that go. The AOA House of Delegates is in Chicago this next month, and about 20-ish delegates get to go with some alternates. And we're there to hear what other states are going through. We're there to weigh in on policies that are currently within the AOA, new ones, new resolutions, or new let's say resolutions are coming through. Basically, it's just knowing how the AOA is functioning, making sure it's doing its work for us as osteopathic physicians within the state, and then also responding to national and even state bills that might be coming up that threaten our ability to be effective physicians for our patients. So there's a lot that goes on. I think Brian and his crew and the lobbyists keep us informed of all the bills that are coming up through the state. And then as far as the national level at the AOA, we do the same thing. We have a committee that meets, and we, again, keep each other in the loop about those things, just knowing that you can't look at all the right, you can't look everywhere. You can't keep track of all of that. So we have a committee for that.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like it's super well informed. So how do you think MAOPS supports DOs specifically?
Well, so our members are osteopathic physicians. And so I can just shout out to Brian. I think he's the point contact for any DO, whether they be, wherever they are in the state, whatever specialty they are in. If they've got a concern about, I'll give examples, the last couple years, there is a hospital system that threatens to not allow osteopathic physicians to do OMT for reasons related to a single DO. And so that was brought to MAOPS' attention, and they started connecting with the AOA, connecting with that hospital system to try and provide some education about what OMT is, what it isn't, and that is not something that they have the right to withhold from us as physicians who can perform that treatment. Another thing is Missouri Board of Healing Arts up there in connection with and communication with Brian. People were notifying him that there was some safety concerns, that the Missouri Board of Healing Arts wasn't really communicating to a particular physician. So they got in touch with MAOPS and said, this is an issue. Again, not going into too many details, it's just any osteopathic physician can reach out to MAOPS. Truthfully, it'd be wonderful if they were a member because we can do something about it. But it's a way to kind of keep track of, again, not just what's happening at the state level, but what's happening at the local, even the different cities, the different hospitals, like how our osteopathic physicians are being supported or not supported. And then we can rally behind, say, this one particular physician is backed by all these other docs here. So again, we kind of have each other's back, but we have to have someone coordinating that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Kind of switching gears here, what role do medical students and residents play specifically within MAOPS?
We have our MAOPS chapters on each campus within Missouri, and so students can get involved in those. They keep us informed on what are important topics that students are facing, not just within the academic part that they're at in their life, but also what is on your mind as a future physician, what's on your heart. So bring those to our group to figure out what direction we need to go to, again, support all members. There's, again, the Wetzel program that, again, we are looking for leaders. Like, how do we want to keep our younger physicians in the state? Or if they're able to go get GME outside the state, bring them back when they're done, because we want to have our patients cared for with some of the best trained and best big-hearted people. We have, I guess we have a good mix of our docs who've been around a while. And we have our young physician network. So some of the younger physicians, that's 40 and under, which most medical students, fall into that. Most residents, not all, because there are some non-traditional, students. But that network is also there to kind of lead the change for the organization as far as like bring, fresh ideas, connections, supporting each other. So again, there is some sustainability. So I, one of the many things I love about it, and one of the hopes I have of this year as president is to highlight the importance of having the medical students and the residents and the docs who have been practicing for like decades, like in the same room together, connect on what do we care about as physicians, what can we teach each other, knowing that at different stages of our careers, we all can learn from each other. And that's how we continue to grow and stay strong as an organization. And hopefully, again, keep making forward growth instead of repeating mistakes over and over again that have cycled through every few years or so.
Yeah. Even I just attended my first conference in April, and I will say sitting in on that conference, it was great to see how receptive everybody was and really valued the opinions of the medical students and the young physicians. I think you guys did a great job of including young physicians and having that young physicians network as a part of the conference, so we could go off and do our own thing while you guys were doing your CME or other trainings and stuff. I think that was really valuable, and definitely good as a student to know that we have our place even at the conference. So I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
How do you
wonderful.
recommend students get involved early in their training?
For those that aren't interested, let's put it out there, because I can say when I was a student, again, I was kind of coming in from being out for a while, and then I just kind of was in like panic mode, just survival mode the entire time getting through med school. So I was like, again, nose down, just keep going. That's fine. Like that's a true need for some. Like, but just be involved. Like just show up to the meeting, learn what you can, even if you're not in a position to do much about it. But once you feel that there's like a pull, a tug to do something, or you're interested in something, then you reach out to the other people with who, again, either higher up in the organization or other peers to share that. And again, just start connecting because someone somewhere might be resonating with the same pull and a tug. And so you just want to keep like looking around and who's in the organization that can help you bring this idea or whatever it may be into light. And sometimes you don't know what you want to do. You just want to do something. So be part of a committee. Learn what you can about the organization. There's so many different components. And truthfully, it's fascinating to know how all these different parts come together. And if you've got a skill set or a passion, apply it in a committee that aligns with that. And so I can say if you've got interest, go for it. Like keep showing up and saying I want to be involved. And sometimes we might just put you somewhere where we need some more minds. And it might not be the place where I think this is exactly what I want to do, but you keep building some experience and learning about all the things about MAOPS. Again, if you have no interest, that's fine. Like, but just show up, because the bigger our organization and any organized medicine, the more weight the decisions are, the actions we take can be, because we have that bigger base behind us. So if you're not there to lead, then get part of it and, support your colleagues.
Yeah. What benefits would you say that MAOPS offers to student members?
I think the big thing is for those who are interested in leadership is just that leadership development. In the Wetzel Scholar Program, you're connected to a mentor. You're doing these kind of extracurricular projects that are geared towards leadership. And so I should say, being in the residency, again, I've seen hundreds of, like applications come through and we do interviews. And then also I'm the DSME for our med students and for ATSU in the Springfield area. So we're always talking about like getting your CV bulked up, and not that you would take on a task just to bulk it up, but that does stand out when it comes across residency application review is like, what have you done with your time? And so sometimes you don't know what to do, but the leadership development opportunities within MAOPS are very structured. So it is like follow what, again, follow your passions, pick your projects, connect with people. They might have another connection that they could say, hey, go check out a residency or, rotation at this site or something. So that again, those connections with with attending physicians, with other physicians throughout the states is phenomenal. And again, the leadership development is fantastic for helping someone have that kind of special edge to their application and their CV. And then you can speak about all the stuff that you've done. And so it's seen incredible success with the scholars that we've had and students who keep in touch with other docs because they have some maturity. They have some, again, they've done some impressive things. And that does show when it comes to residency, you realize people can handle a lot. And when you're able to work with others and be a leader, that's something that every residency, no matter what specialty you're going into, recognizes and appreciates that development before you get to the next grueling stage of your training with residency.
Yeah. I know that MAOPS in this last conference did a little bit of networking and mentorship. It felt like we did like a specialty speed dating, and I think that was really cool and interesting for the conference. So, and I hope that we'll do something either similar or the same for the next conference. But for students listening, I think that was a very good activity. So we had a whole bunch of physicians that sat, and we would have a time, so a lot amount of time, and you got to ask questions to the physicians and talk about their specialties and ask them kind of brutal, honest questions on what they felt about it. And most of them wanted to sell you on their specialty, which is amazing to hear. And so it was a very positive experience, in my opinion, because, we're stuck grinding and our noses to the books all the time. So being able to see how happy you guys are practicing and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is amazing.
You're listening to YPN's Guide to DOing Medical School. This podcast is hosted by the Young Physicians Network of MAOPS, Missouri Association of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons. MAOPS has been the voice of osteopathic physicians in Missouri for the past 125 years, advocating for the osteopathic profession at the local, state, and federal levels. This podcast is created for students by students to help with the unique struggles of medical school, tailored to the osteopathic experience. Have a topic that you would like to hear about next season? Let us know at our social media pages on Instagram at @DO_MAOPS and on Facebook at Missouri Association of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons. This is YPN's Guide to DOing Medical School.
Switching gears a little bit again, what is the top policy or legislative priorities for MAOPS this year?
So we're still working on our legislative regulatory committee. But so far, there's a few things that MAOPS has responded to from like a national level. I don't know what people know about current ACIP threats. So we signed on to a Family Vaccine Protection Act that will be reviewed at the AOA House of Delegates this year, I believe. And so that's just, again, keeping our eye on the national level, like how does what's happening impact our patients in Missouri and our, again, ability to do our jobs effectively. There have been a few other, we're always looking at scope of practice, nurse practitioners, CRNAs, chiropractors, optometrists. Like there's just like steady little creeps into the realm of medical care that may be beyond one's scope or does not have the extent of training that our physicians do. So that is always going to be on our radar. Whether or not there's going to be major motions that is always something up for debate because sometimes we see the national trends. They say this is happening. Okay, this is going to happen. But what do we do here to safeguard our practice as well as keep our patients safe with the clinicians who have, again, ample training, evidence-based practices, that sort of thing. So just one thing that's come up this year is another increase in scope of chiropractic care. And so that's one thing. Again, there's always nurse practitioner, independent practice scope that we're looking at. Another one is also keeping an eye on the medical students that there are some, again, at the AOA level, there is some talk about trying to cap, how much can be borrowed for medical students, or medical school loans. And so it's like looking at all those line by line to say, is this truly the best thing? Is this the best way to, achieve what they are hoping to, because they're not understanding every aspect of what each, school costs, the residency, like duration, the paybacks, that sort of thing. So those are the ones that have come up on our radar so far.
Okay.
And I think there's always going to be that, and we're still just trying to keep up with all the things happening nationally as well. But I know our last year, our priorities were, again, looking at like non-compete, looking at the examination requirements for continuing medical education. It was trying to track, opiate use with patients, again, always supporting the vaccines. It was, again, just making sure that, again, there's access to care with physician-led teams. And I don't know if you were there during the meeting when there was discussion of the ERs that need to be staffed with physicians. So again, that sort of thing, where we're like, okay, we get it. We see that there needs to be an access. Let's make sure people are taken care of. And as you saw, there was difference in opinions, which is, again, one of the things I love about MAOPS is like, oh, this is so great because you learn all the different perspectives. And so we'll see where that goes this year.
Yeah. How would you say physicians and students influence healthcare policy?
A great question. And I know at the level that we're at, talking with patients, learning their stories, I feel like when we go and talk to legislators about what we're interested in and what we're concerned about, we can put all the numbers in front of them and it won't make as much of an impact as the story of the patient that it impacts directly. So that is huge. And I can say, students, at least in the first 2 years, right, you're in the you're in the academic, you're in the classroom. Yeah. But when you start going out into clinicals, you'll have the opportunity to have those stories. But you might see trends that, again, we're not seeing. So say, don't discount that. But when there's a personal story, then that's something to share. And then that can trigger a policy. Like Dr. Brown, one of our members, when he was a student, started advocating for kind of transparency in vaccination status of kids in daycare. And that led to state and even national policy. But he just recognized something that impacted him as a parent, and then got in touch with people, and again kept going along, and because he was very passionate about it. Right, there's story. He had a story to say, to tell, and other people could resonate with that. So I say that is one way we can influence, is we can share our patients' stories and how our community is impacted by the policies that are in place or that are not in place. Because that's truly our mission, right? Is like to serve our patients and serve each other, to support each other, to serve our patients. But yeah, the times we've been up at the Capitol, I can, again, more often than not, we can come up with a bunch of stats, and they're like, okay, but what's it coming out of the money? And like, and the people.
What are some current challenges facing DOs in Missouri and at the national level currently? We kind of touched on a little bit of it, it sounded like.
Yeah, I mentioned the OMT, practicing that. The non-competes, I think that's going to be for any MD or DO. So they're trying to think of specific things right now that I'm aware of for the osteopathic profession.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the students always bring this up at the AOA, and I appreciate just knowing. And I've heard this from the students that I work with too, is there is still some lack of recognition or appreciation for like the DO training, the osteopathic training, for the we talk about like USMLE and COMLEX, making sure there is, these are valued at the same level. So I think that is one thing that is always threatening, unfortunately still threatening, excuse me, osteopathic students throughout the country, and still some in Missouri. So I think that's always something we're trying to figure out how to improve, because we know it is a struggle. And I'm thankful I'm hearing this less and less, but I've had some students, again, students in our schools in the state, maybe pursuing rotations outside of the state, that are having to really work hard to get into some spots because they are osteopathic students as opposed to allopathic. So, and the more that we can know about these things, the more equipped we can be to like say, here's some objective data. It's like, we want to know the numbers within our organization, but we need to know, we need to hear from people. So I'd say that's still challenges. We still want to encourage everyone to share that if they're encountering that, so we can know how widespread it is.
So for any listeners that has faced that before, would you recommend them emailing MAOPS, or how do you recommend them go about that if they've ever had issues?
I think that's a wonderful place to start, as well as their school. So again, I don't know what other schools are like, but as a DSME or Director of Student Medical Education for the ATSU students in my region, I want to I know, and then I can talk to people above me to just get this on the radar. But again, that's one sliver of this whole pie. So we need someone keep an eye on the whole pie. So the schools will know that, and then if MAOPS, can know that, I think that would again further support when we go to the state capitol, or we go to the AOA House of Delegates and say this is happening here in the state, and then let's compare it to other states.
Okay. Yeah, that's good advice. Thank you. What other advice would you give to medical students who aspire to take on leadership roles within medicine?
I'd say, again, follow that tug. It's there for a reason. Keep working with others, listening to different perspectives, because you will figure out what you truly believe when you can see it from the other side, if that makes sense. You need to know what you're wanting to get involved with, and why. I think just be clear about what's pulling you once you feel that. Get in touch with other docs who are leaders, see if they have time for mentoring, and just show up. And it sounds really, really simple, but I sat next to a doc at one of our MAOPS dinners who was talking about his role in leadership and advocacy. And, when people, he was talking to a legislator, and he just saw this person kept showing up, and a legislator, reached out and kind of made contact and said, I don't care so much about what the fact that I know that you care. And then again, you still can show up. And that shows that you've made that choice to commit to something bigger than yourself, which any leader should have really clear, right? You're not doing it for your own agenda. You're doing it for your colleagues, your patients, whatever, again, that tug is connected to. So I guess just show up, make that known, and ask, what can I do? I want to learn. How can I grow into this role? I remember asking, actually, that was one of, I remember talking to my program director, and how do you, I want to do this and that. How do I start? And he was like, you say yes. If there's an opportunity, you do it. I mean, granted, within reason, don't spread too thin outside of what that pull is and what your passions are. But if there's an opportunity, it's there for a reason. And so take it. like try extending. And then if you're like, oh, that was too much, you at least learned that. So I guess the thing is show up, do something, and say yes. Take the opportunity and learn from that, and be surrounded by, I guess, people you would trust to ask something of you that they know is in alignment with what your interests are.
That's really great. Thank you for that advice. Do you have any favorite memories from MAOPS you want to share today?
Yeah. So this, I think, just exemplifies like just for any like lack of any eloquent words, just like how awesome the people are in MAOPS, and what I'm really proud about being a part of them is this was years ago. One of our members, he was actually a faculty at our program, Dr. Logan Banks, the DO, did all sorts of training to go out and practice and medical missions, and had a call to go actually practice in Burundi and do some medical mission work there. And he applied to MAOPS for some funding for him and his whole family to go out there. But they had like this whole process of getting there, and it was going to be a lot of money they didn't have. So they would, ask all their friends and family. And Dr. Banks, having been a member of MAOPS for years, he reached out to our family, our MAOPS family. And I'll never forget, I forget the amount that he asked for, but this was proposed to this, the MAOPS, I don't know if it was the board or the whole annual, congregation. And there was minimal discussion, and they gave him so much more money than he asked for, because they knew that was necessary to do it. Like, they recognized his humility, and they just did it. And so they gave him this money to go out to Burundi. He became the first osteopathic physician to be credentialed in Burundi. He did everything that he said yes to everything that came across his path. So he became like almost like a neonatologist. He became like an oncology specialist. He did everything that community needs. That was his his passion, and MAOPS made like that happen. It was incredible. So there was just the generosity that was there. It was the advocacy that the physicians had for each other. They had his back. And I guess I can tell you another thing is, when I was a med student, at the end of third year, I was doing my rotations in Joplin, Missouri. And that was the time the big tornado came in. And it just, my husband, wasn't my husband at the time, but anyways, we were there in our house, and it got pretty much destroyed. And we went and worked in the hospital all night to kind of for the community, but when we came back, we had like really nothing to work with as students. And MAOPS just like sent us, like, they gave us financial support. They gave us new white coats. They gave us like stuff we didn't even ask for. So because we were members, again, because Dr. Banks was a member, we had this family connection, and again, just taking care of our own, like MAOPS just showed up and did what I thought was like truly the most compassionate thing, and took care of its members. And so those are those things that I think there's just an abundance of I guess compassion, and you just care for each other. And I don't know, that those are the things that like I love this group, because that was a whole lot of people, right? They have different opinions on these policies and everything, but they had a unifying desire to just help their neighbor, help their fellow osteopathic physician.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing to hear those kind of stories, because it just kind of reminds you of just how awesome this MAOPS can be, and just a great organization to be a part of. And I mean, I've got involved pretty early in my career of medical training, and I already feel so supported. So I can't even imagine, how supported I'll feel 10 years from now. So I'd just love to hear those stories. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
How do you envision the role of osteopathic physicians evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
You tell me. I don't know. You're in the era of technology. I think with all that technology changes, like there truly is going to be a need for our osteopathic roots to like dig in. Like, we need to dig into those? Like, there are things that we learn from day one, the mind, body, spirit, that is not touched by the amount of information available at our fingertips. Like, our fingertips are also like touching people like bodies and like treating. So that's another thing that I think is really important is there's no training like ours that spans the medical and the somatics, and then how all that's connected into the spirit. Like, it's that sounds like it's out there, but it's truly, it makes a difference in the quality of the physician that is present in front of the patient, and the quality of the physician that's talking to the other physician, because you've been connected through your training and mind, body, spirit, mindset, all of that, to really just see the human and take care of that, all that you see, all that you feel. And another thing too is I do think that again, I don't know the specific numbers. I do know that there's more women going in like into osteopathic training. I think in primary care there's more women. The numbers are rising through all specialties, and so I do think with that our healthcare field needs to change, to just incorporate or recognize that the makeup of our physicians in general is different. And whether it be, again, innately what's there, or our training, or a mix of both, like the way things are done right now in medicine, that is not sustainable. And for physicians to also stay in the field, it needs to change, because I think people are understanding there's a lack of what's present and how we're caring for patients. Because again, the way that we're trained, it is different. And I see that in medical students, in residents, in other physicians, that osteopathic, the tenets, the philosophy, all of that, it just adds something of like, it brings it together. And it's just this robust, genuinely like thoughtful individual who can take in all this information and make sense of it, and still like see the human that's there. And again, like hopefully tech can make you be able to be more present with all of that. But I do think there's a lot of changes in the field that will need to make sure that you're able to do that with patients in the time that you have, because people, they recognize that too, and they really appreciate it. Like, we've had patients who will seek out our docs in the clinic because they want a DO. They don't necessarily want, sometimes they want OMT, but they want a DO. And that's really cool because they know they've encountered a really good one. So as long as we stay true to our roots, we'll branch off wherever we need to go to like be sustainable, but still on to something. So let's trust that.
Yeah, I think one of the kind of what you're going off of and how we can really listen to patients is, I think one of the really cool things that I've seen in clinic being used is the EMR system can listen through AI. It can listen to your conversations. And I can just see that you can put your phone down and it'll listen to you and put it into their note. And I feel like that is a good impact, because the patient probably feels like, oh, you're really paying attention to them. You're not typing as much as you would be otherwise. So I think that that's a good positive for tech. And so I'm hoping that we can keep moving in a positive direction with that and still keep, the eyes on the patient and everything. But
exactly.
Yeah, I will agree that I feel like the osteopathic training is just so invaluable.
Yeah, agreed.
What's one message you'd like to share with every osteopathic medical student listening today?
That was such a good question. Oh gosh. So I guess just trust your training and keep representing the osteopathic way. It might not be easy to do, when someone might not consider what you look at when you see the whole patient, but it's valid. And so I guess trust that. So from that, osteopathically, like, just again, trust the training and that. For those that I guess just aren't quite there or just need some other message, it just goes to what you were saying. Is just like listen to patients. They're the best teacher. And there is no comparison to the healing that can happen when the human being that you are is present with the human being that they are. And then you just hear them and see them. And sometimes you don't do any medicine at all other than just being present with them. And that establishment of connection is the foundation that trust can build on, so that when medicine is needed or something is needed, there's, belief in that you have their best interests. So never stop listening to people, listen to your patients. They know a huge difference when you're there and you're present. And I guess just always trust that they may be more wise than we think, and that wisdom can come out when they feel like they're in a safe space, or you see them truly and maybe encourage that. Not to be a little out there for like later on, but yes, mind, body, spirit training all the way. Tenets, yes, listen to your patient. It seems so simple, but it makes all the difference when you can keep realigning all the things you're doing on like for that person in front of you, that unique individual. And when they know that they're seen and heard and sometimes like felt, right? When we do our treatments, gosh, that's just a gift that anyone I think could like benefits from. And that's medicine, right? That's healing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. How can students and physicians stay informed or get connected with MAOPS?
Yeah, that's so we have our MAOPS website. That's always got some information, and we have our Instagram and Facebook, and trying to get more active on that. Just again, trying to figure out the best way to share information and keep people in the loop. There's monthly newsletters that go out. The email, if you want another email to read. I usually write a little snip in there. Brian does a great job reviewing all the things that are going on. So if you're like at a point that you're like, I can just dedicate like 20 minutes of my month, like just read that email. And then there are certain times of the year, like when they're in session at the Capitol, where things are happening a lot more frequently. If you want to know what's going on, there's some legislative updates that come out. But for general, just check out the websites, just navigate it, see what sparks your interest, follow on the social media accounts, and talk to your other students who are involved, and they might clue you into a better way to get information about it.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you wanted to discuss today at all?
Just say one thing. Actually, yes, one thing. So, in addition to this month, the AOA House of Delegates, it's going to be super fun. I love this every year. We are doing something a little different this year for our organization. And in the fall, in October, we're doing some strategic planning, which I know sounds so fascinating, but it is our organization is recognizing we're at a point we need to make some changes. We need to do some shift work and assess our focuses, where we're committing our energies to, and all sorts of things. So this is a time that we want input. And so we have a task force that's coming together to look at the data, look at the trends, consider where we've been, where we want to go. And we have docs there, and young docs of all walks of their stage, like I was telling you about. Like we've got students and residents and seasoned docs, retired docs. So we've got lots there in the room. And if there's something that someone feels really strongly about, reach out. We'd love to hear about that as we make these adjustments. But I'd just say that being part of organized medicine is something that it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of listening to the different voices and acknowledging there's different walks and different perspectives and different preferences. Together, the more we have, the more we can understand what's at the root, like what connects us all, so we can be on board while also still being who we are individually. But the more input we have to understand who our body is and how we want to grow, hopefully the more effective we can do that. So that's something on the horizon. So just know that there's always something happening behind the scenes. And again, if you want to be part of it, get in touch, shoot an email, say, I want to get involved. I want to get on a committee. I want to be at the conference. Just start showing up. Because truthfully, this organization is going to be in your hands, right? Someday. So like that is the goal. Like, we're looking to the future. What our young physicians need, because we know medicine's changing, organized medicine's changing, but to be sustainable, we need to adapt and change with. And I'm really encouraged by that. A little frightened, honestly, just putting that out there. But it's going to be good. It's life, and so that's another part of growth is that I think this organization is always growing and adapting, and it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up our episode for What is MAOPS? A huge thank you to Dr. Katie Davenport-Kabonic, the president of MAOPS, for joining us and giving such valuable insights about leadership, advocacy, and the future of osteopathic medicine. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. If you found this conversation helpful, please share it with your classmates and colleagues.